I'm gonna introduce my partner here, Sergeant Retired Boone Cutler. Boone and I have written a couple of books about what we call the Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare, and I know Boone's going to touch on those a little bit, and then we'll get off the stage and get out of your way here. And thank you very much for allowing us to be part of this. God bless you. Thank you.
Watch this. Ladies and gentlemen, General Flynn, America's General. I'm not sure if I can follow that, but if you give me a little bit of your time, I might say something interesting to you. First of all, yes, my name is Boone Cutler, and I have come here today specifically with General Flynn because we have authored a series of books. They're military-style manuals written specifically for civilians regarding fifth-generation warfare. Now, let me ask you a question real quick because this is very important. It's about General Flynn. Raise your hand if you were upset when you learned he went to jail. You were, weren't you? Put your hands down. He never went to jail. But we do this for a reason, because everyone in here has been a victim of these influence campaigns, these influence operations. This is all part of fifth-generation warfare. Why? Because they had to discredit the man. Why? To discredit him and to take out Trump. This is the way the game is played. But it's supposed to be a game that we use against foreign adversaries, not against ourselves. But in today's world, in the United States, we're using it against ourselves. This needs to stop. Let me ask you another question. Have you guys recently heard in Scranton, Pennsylvania, this ammunition factory, U.S. ammunition factory caught on fire? Same thing happened overseas. You guys remember these food distribution plants that were caught on fire? All these cattle dying, train derailments. Okay, what we're talking right now is gray zone warfare. Gray zone warfare, the gray zone is the zone in between all-out war and complete peace. It's part of statecraft. This is part of fifth-generation warfare. It's very important to learn and understand, especially within law enforcement. As we're looking at these diaspora communities coming up from the South, we're not just looking at immigrants. We're looking at people who are infiltrating these groups and are also coming through. But for some reason, the media is not reporting on it as what it is. Diaspora communities means displaced persons. What do they do with these displaced persons? One, you put them in a group. And if we were in college right now and we were studying, we're going to get our master's degree in irregular warfare, those level 100 classes would be like, what is asymmetrical warfare? Level 200 class would be like, talk about psychological operations. And then when you get up into like level 300 level courses, now you're talking about things like weaponized diaspora communities. And how does that work? Here's how that works. It means you put groups of people inside bigger groups of people, but those groups of people are there to conduct military operations and covert influence. This is what is coming to our country. All these people that are showing up here are camouflage for centralized groups that are going to conduct covert operations within the United States and terrorism. Law enforcement is going to be faced with this. And we're out there, there's people out here, especially, and the media is complicit to it, saying defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. I say no, fund the police, don't militarize them, fund them, and one of the things you need to do to fund them is to get them training in irregular warfare, because this is the operational environment we are currently in. It is irregular warfare. Irregular warfare is warfare outside of conventional warfare. It means people in regular clothes who are running around doing funky stuff to a country to break down the social fabric of that country. Have you guys seen something like that? Breaking down the social fabric of a country? This is by design. It is 100% by design. But we have the ability to stop it as soon as we know that there is a war in the cognitive battle space. When we talk about fifth-generation warfare, people say, what is that? What is the fifth generation? Well, what was the first generation? The first generation was pre-gunpowder. Now, this is doctrine. This isn't some stuff we just made up. This stuff has been out for a long time. Second-generation warfare was post-gunpowder. Now we're talking about things like, you saw in like the colonial wars, you see muskets, you see people shooting at each other across fields instead of just running and hacking each other with swords and knives. Third generation warfare, now we're getting into flying machines. Now we're getting into tanks. Now we're doing stuff like trench warfare. At the end of third generation warfare, into the fourth, we start seeing atomic weapons. The veracity of war has increased to an extreme. In fourth generation warfare, we start looking at terrorism, state and non-state actors. Now we're seeing non-state actors, meaning terrorist organizations, attacking other countries because of ideology. That was the fourth generation of war. And now we are in the fifth generation of war. The fifth generation of war is the war in the cognitive battle space. The fifth generation of war happens with each and every person in here because you are the weapon system. What you believe and what you think and how you influence the people around you is the weapon system. It is propaganda. It is fake news. It is lawfare. Seen a little bit of that lately? It is influence operations. Political warfare. This is the fifth generation of warfare, and everybody in here is affected by it. How many of you in here see your kids on their phones 24 hours a day because the parents are on the phones 24 hours a day, and the internet and social media is training their children how to behave, grow, and become an adult? Everybody. This is part of the game. This is where the influence operations are happening, and it has to change. Now, I reached out to some agency folks, some organization folks, and say, hey, guys, are you doing, within your law enforcement agency, are you doing irregular warfare training? And the answer was no. And I said, why? They said, because we know we need to do it, but we don't know who to ask, and we don't know how to get it. They need it. And law enforcement needs your support. And these constitutional sheriffs, they need your support. And they need support to understand the operational environment that is happening now. Because these weaponized diaspora communities that are coming in is going to fall squarely on them. You're seeing a lot of talk about civil war, civil war, civil war. And sadly, very sadly, there is nothing that could be more wrong. Civil war will lessen the national will to fight foreign adversaries. Civil war will tear apart your country. Civil war will tear apart your families and your communities. This is the time when we have to come together to be strong. We must come together as a peer-to-peer unit, realizing that social media is completely contrived. It is there to put you in a feedback loop. It is there to put you in a filter bubble. It is there to make sure you think that your neighbor is your enemy. That's why it's there. That's the messaging. Your neighbor is absolutely not your enemy. Your neighbor is just as confused as you are, and they want answers. When General Flynn and I first started talking about this stuff, I was traveling the country talking to veterans groups, very, very diverse groups. He was talking to primarily evangelical groups at this time. He says, Boone, I don't understand. I get off stage, and people just seem so confused. They feel like they're manipulated. I said, that's very interesting, sir, because I have a completely different target audience. I'm getting the same response and the same indicators. We started talking about that. And once you start comparing notes, you start seeing a few things about target audiences. First of all, everything you've seen with this Marxist agenda that keeps rising and people keep saying this is what everybody wants, well, that's total crap. The truth of the matter is they're trying to astroturf, and these are some of the terms you'll learn in the books. There are organic movements, and then there are astroturf movements. Organic means it is natural among the people because it's the desire and the will of the people, the consent of the governed. However, astroturfing is making something look like it's big and real, hoping other people will join it. The socialist agenda, the Marxist agenda in the United States was focused on the 51% of most socialist Democrats. 51% of the most socialist Democrats. What does that mean? That means 49% of Democrats and the conservatives kind of believe the same stuff. They don't want to go to war with each other. They don't want a Marxist agenda. They don't want to get rid of the Constitution. They want to argue over 12% tax versus 17% tax. But we judge each other and we fight and we fight and we fight and we fight. But what we should be fighting is those people up there in office because they're the ones screwing this stuff up, and we got to push back against the media. Amen? I am here to announce today that as part of America's future, we are going to start conducting irregular warfare awareness training for law enforcement officers across the country, starting with the constitutional sheriffs. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.